And welcome everybody to another episode of Fins Nation. I am your host, Louis Sung, and I am joined today by Marek Brave. This is his second time on the show. Sir, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Lewis. Happy to be back with you on short notice, but anytime we can talk about a Dolphins victory, we got to do it, right?
Oh yeah, and this is a Dolphins victory in more ways than one. There's a lot of things that are changing throughout the AFC, throughout the AFC East. We're going to get into all the things that are going on, but before that, really quick, just want to go ahead and mention that this show, as always, is brought to you by our good friends over at You Brake Wheel Fix. You Brake Wheel Fix is a complete automotive wheel solution. If you've ever parked too close to the sidewalk curb, You Brake Wheel Fix specializes in the repair of damaged wheels from bends, cracks, and curb rash. Or if your wheels are faded or peeling, don't bother replacing them. You Brake Wheel Fix can refinish them to like new with powder coating, machining, polishing. They are the answer to all of your wheel needs. Or if you just want to give your ride an upgrade, they have special car customizing options that can give you new custom wheels, some Dolphins wheels if you want. Performance upgrades, window tinting, if you need to get some suspension modifications, they can do all of that for you as well. Reach out to Mark and his staff at 305-748-0112, or you can go online to youbrakewheelfix.com and get an estimate in just minutes. So don't delay, go to YouBrakeWheelFix and start customizing your ride to show off your Dolphins fandom today. This show is also brought to you by PrizePicks.com. PrizePicks.com is a revolutionary fantasy platform where you can now pick up to 6 different players across professional sports leagues. Whether that's the NFL, the NBA, or the MLB, it's one of each. It's up to you to decide how you want to play it. All you have to do is choose whether your chosen player, or like a Tua Tagovailoa or Tyreek Hill, if you want to go ahead and say that they're going to get more than their projected stat, that's honestly a pretty fair bet after what we saw against the Los Angeles Chargers. They'll also give you free squares like the recent Dak Prescott one. Special Taco Tuesday promos. Make sure you don't miss out on those. And of course, my favorite, Flex Friday specials, where you can get your money back if you lose or multiply the amount of money you can normally win, which means you can go for a big bet up to $20, and if you lose, they give you the money right back so you can try again. So with offers like that, it's hard to justify not signing up. Use the promo code 5, that's FIVE, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you sign up. Again, the promo code 5, FIVE. Go to prizepicks.com, deposit your $100, and let PrizePicks give you $100 of their dollars for you to play with, and get started winning today. And of course, a new sponsor to the show, and we're very glad to have them. And a big thank you to them for setting up the watch party this past Sunday. Biscayne Bay Brewery, they're independent and locally owned. They are the only brewery in downtown Miami. They are the official craft beer, the Miami Marlins, and brewing partner of the Miami Heat. They're awesome with what they do. They have great food, great drinks. If you're looking for a place to hang out and watch the game, whatever time of day or night, then you can go ahead and head on over to Biscayne Bay Brewery, located 100 Northeast 1st Avenue on the 3rd floor. They're going to have a banner out there. You're going to know exactly where they are. So go ahead and head over to Biscayne Bay Brewery. You can watch your games there. And we at the 5 Reasons Sports Network will be there for future watch parties. So make sure you're keeping an eye out for those. All you have to do is mention 5 Reasons, and and they're going to know why you're there. All right. So, Mr. Marek, I want to go ahead and bring this up because first I want to get your overall impressions of the first game, because what we saw on Sunday was probably one of the most exciting things we had ever seen, and what a way to start the season. It certainly set the tone, as it were, for what the Dolphins can do this season.
Yeah, it certainly was exciting. I think we were all kind of on the edges of our seats watching that one. The offense was certainly impressive. Tua Tagovailoa, I mean, what more does he have to do to silence his critics out there? It's not the first time we've seen him have a game like that, but it was the first time in a while we've seen him have a game like that. And it was just, there are no words to describe it. It was just impressive on all fronts. Tyreek Hill, I mean, everybody knows Tyreek Hill is the man. He's always been the man. He always will be the man. Over 200 yards receiving. Just a phenomenal day for the offense. Defense, that's another story. In particular, that running defense, I'm a little concerned about that. But we'll reserve total judgment. It was week 1. It was the first game under Vic Fangio. All these defensive players are learning a new system, so hopefully they can acclimate to that a little bit better as the season rolls on. But as far as entertainment value goes, it was hard to beat the game we got on Sunday when the Dolphins had that come from behind victory against the Chargers.
And I want to go ahead and I want to highlight something real quick here. This just came out from the Miami Dolphins PR team for Brett Bryson. I believe that's how you say his name. A good guy who works in the Miami Dolphins internally. So the Miami Dolphins on Sunday had 17 plays of 15 yards or more, which is the most by an NFL team in any game since January 1st, 2012, over a decade ago, when New Orleans and Detroit both did it on the same day. So Think about that. It's been over 10 years since any team has managed to get this many plays of 15 plus yards. That just goes to show just how explosive this team can be. They can do anything they want pretty much on a dime. And I think it was Dan Orlovsky who said it on NFL Live. He's the way he put it. He said it best. The way that Mike McDaniel schemes things, he's basically dictating to the defense, I want you in this formation so that I can run this play. So I'm going to give you this formation, and then I'm going to catch you off guard. And I know that Tua can execute it to the point where you guys aren't going to be able to stop it. And that's something that I find so incredible. And I'm so glad that, if nothing else, Tua has learned a lot about how Vic Fangio's defense functions. So Brandon Staley, being the Vic Fangio protege that he was, he's obviously not going to be able to just stop Tua dead in his tracks anymore. He's already learned what it is that he needs to expect from defenses like that. And it showed because he knew exactly where to go with the ball on any given moment. And I want to go ahead and mention this as well. Kudos to the offensive line, because Kendall Lamb and even Austin Jackson, I'm sure that Austin Jackson had his moments. I haven't had a chance to really just dig into the tape and watch him specifically all game long, but 0 sacks for all the pressures that they had. I think it was like 13 or so. 0 sacks. And that's with Joey Bosa. That's with Khalil Mack. That's with Derwin James bearing down on everybody. So as far as I'm concerned, it could not have been a better offensive performance. Well, no, I take it back. There could have been one offensive performance better. Connor Williams needs to stop snapping the ball. But aside from that, the offensive line did exactly what we could have possibly hoped for.
Yeah, and I really like that you bring up the fact that this came against a Chargers defense, a Brandon Staley defense that stifled this Dolphins offense last year when the Dolphins played in that exact same building on Sunday Night Football and kind of got embarrassed. And a lot of people said they got exposed. And many people wondered going into this game if Mike McDaniel was going to have that counterpunch, so to speak. And I think it's safe to say, after Sunday's result and the 36 points that the Miami Dolphins put up against that exact same Brandon Staley defense, not even the exact same defense, a defense that had Derwin James this time, didn't have Derwin James last time, a defense that had J.C. Jackson this time, didn't have J.C. Jackson last time. The Dolphins
didn't have Joey Bosa.
Exactly. So not only did the Dolphins, come out and show out against a Brandon Staley defense, they came out and did what they did against a healthier Brandon Staley defense. So, I mean, just can't say enough about Tua, Tyreek's performance. Like you said, that offensive line's performance. It was just a very, very impressive victory that should bode well for this offense moving forward throughout the 2023 season.
And now there is some other things that are going on inside of the AFC East, and it directly involves the Dolphins. So, as you probably heard by now, and I'm sure everybody in the world has heard at this point, Aaron Rodgers just suffered a season-ending Achilles tear. So he is probably done. He's definitely done for this year. He might be done forever at this point. I mean, the man is going to be 40 years old come December. This might be it for Aaron Rodgers. And I know that Jets fans are devastated. And believe me, I know what that feels like to know that the season is already over. When Tua goes down, it's like, oh God, what are we going to do now? We have to rely on Teddy Bridgewater. We have to rely on Skylar Thompson. Now there are Jets fans looking at it. Oh God, we have to go back to Zach Wilson. We already know how this plays out. So there are a lot of people out there who are very upset about what's going on. But that being said, with the injury to Aaron Rodgers, all of a sudden, a lot of things have changed per the odds. Now, as of right now, and this is based on DraftKings odds, the New York Jets are plus 600 now to win the AFC East. That is nowhere near what they were before when Aaron Rodgers was the man at quarterback. Now with Zach Wilson, obviously that's a huge drop-off. But something else that I want to bring up as well. Just Josh Allen, he did not have a good game either.
Not at all.
He did not have a good game. And many people are looking at Josh Allen and saying, you're the reason they lost that game. Like, you went back to your rookie season where you were throwing the ball like you're some kind of passing savant. And the fact of the matter is that this man, when he gets reckless, he's dangerous to himself, not necessarily to other teams. So now all of a sudden, the Miami Dolphins are in a very interesting situation. There were some people who were picking the Dolphins. Like, I know for a fact that Louis Riddick considered them the favorites in his mind. But now, per official odds makers, this is per odd makers, right? New England Patriots are plus 950. New York Jets plus 600. Buffalo Bills plus 145. Miami Dolphins plus 140 to win the AFC East. So, by all Vegas definition, there is a new champion for the AFC East this season, according to them, at least early on, and it's the Miami Dolphins. I don't know if anybody has had that for the past 10 years at this point, but it put us in a very unfamiliar situation, knowing that the Dolphins are actually the favorites to win the East after everything that went down this past Sunday.
Yeah, and it's early. It's week one, so there's a lot of overreaction after week one, but I think this is warranted, especially on the Jets front. I mean, you lose Aaron Rodgers, multi-time MVP quarterback in the league, one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history. Now, he's getting up there in age. A lot of us Dolphins fans weren't too scared about him going to the Jets. I don't think we were looking at that as a move that was going to, put them over the top, but it seems like a lot of national media members were. And the odds makers were as well. Because like you said, Lewis, those odds changed drastically after Rodgers went down. And even though I am a Dolphins fan, and I have been a Dolphins fan for 30 plus years at this point, I felt a little sad for Jets fans. I hate to say it out loud, but I felt a little sad for Jets fans.
Right? There are people already hitting the dislike button just because how dare you have any sympathy for Jets fans? I know some Jets fans. I'm not one of those guys who just I do not take joy in other people's pain. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and you hate to see a player with Rodgers, pedigree go out like that. If that was the last game he ever plays, you hate to see him go out like that. And as a fellow old man, I'm 37 myself, I can certainly empathize with his situation. The injury taking the ball out of his hands, so to speak, figuratively and literally, and putting him on the sideline. So you do feel a little bit for that fan base. And then people bring up the old tweets about Jets fans saying that Tua's brains are going to be leaking from his ears at some point this season. So I dial it back a little bit, and I have less sympathy for them.
Yeah, I'm the way that I see it is that there are people with no class that exist in this world, and I do not wish to stoop down to their level. There are some very nice Jets fans out there. I know some of them personally. There are some good guys, and they are devastated right now. I feel for those people because it feels like their whole season is over. But with that said, as a Dolphins fan, I can look at this and say, well, the AFC East just got blown even more wide open than ever. I already was not scared of the whole Aaron Rodgers angle. I understand that he's still a very good quarterback. He knows what he's doing. He didn't complete a pass in the 4 plays that he had. I will say that. So it's not like Aaron Rodgers was just already on his way to lighting up the opposition. But on something else I wanted to bring up as well. Dalvin Cook, he did not cook. He did not cook.
And that's the thing, because Breece Hall did. Breece Hall looked amazing coming off of that ACL injury last night. So you can't blame it on the offensive line. You got to blame it on the back, because Breece Hall ate and Dalvin Cook did not, unfortunately, for Jets fans. Not unfortunately for us as Dolphins fans.
No, it feels like we dodged
passed on Dalvin Cook, and then also, obviously, we're rooting against Dalvin now that he is a Jet.
Yeah, so it feels like the Dolphins actually might have dodged a bullet with the whole Dalvin Cook thing, at least early on. I remember, and I will own it. I was one of those guys who was like, I want the luxury of having Dalvin Cook in that backfield. I want to be able to say, ooh, we added Dalvin Cook to our backfield. Now we really are dangerous. But even then, I knew that if Dalvin Cook became a Dolphin, it's not like he was going to get 20 carries per game. That just wasn't going to happen. I had hoped that maybe the Dolphins would run the ball more, but it doesn't look like they're going to be doing that. You know what? And it's very interesting because let's look at it from this perspective real quick. Mike McDaniel has said in multiple interviews that the way that he got in with the coaching staff, right? There was Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay was in there, LaFleur was in there, all these guys, right? He got in by latching on to Chris Forster and learning the running game. That was how he made himself stand out. But that was not necessarily what he wanted to do. You never heard him say, oh, I wanted to learn the run game. The run game was my favorite. He never said any of that. He had just said that he felt like that was the only place where he could make an impact at the time, which I can understand because obviously Sean McVay is a very smart coach. Obviously LaFleur, very smart coach. You have a bunch of guys there who are very, very educated and very good at what they do. So for Mike McDaniel, he's just another guy who's trying to do the same thing. He's not going to stand out above the crowd. So he went ahead and he tried to do the opposite. And he said, okay, I'm going to become a run game specialist. So I'm thinking that the reason why we're not running the football, and even though everybody assumed that's what we would do because, oh, Mike McDaniel was the running game coach for the San Francisco 49ers, I'm thinking that the only reason Mike McDaniel was the running game coach for the San Francisco 49ers was because he realized that with all the other pieces in place, there was no other place where he would be able to really make a name for himself, so to speak. Now that he is the head coach of the Miami Dolphins, it feels like, okay, now I get to show what I know about the passing game. I don't care about running the football. I just did it because I had to.
And you got Jalen Waddle on one side and Tyreek Hill on the other. That'd be, if he really, leaned on the run game, that'd be like the guy who owns the Porsche taking the golf cart to the grocery store. You know what I mean? If you got the Porsche, you might as well drive it, baby.
And that's what I'm looking at as well. And so I want to pull up real quick some transcripts from that game because what Mike McDaniel had to say about some of this stuff was really very interesting. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring this up here. There were some interesting points that he talked about. And going for it at the end of the second quarter, I want to bring that up because that's something that I never expected that to happen. Pretty much any other coach would have just said, okay, there's 9 seconds left, 12 seconds left, or however many seconds there were. Let's just go ahead and kneel it down. We'll go back into the half and we'll try to get the momentum back after. That's not what Mike McDaniel did. And he was asked a question about what the decision was behind that. So I'm going to go ahead and read it real quick. I think it's important that you constantly evolve as a coach and a play caller. At that point in time, I thought our guys would block them well enough to pump the ball down the field and see if our playmakers could do something with it. There had been a good amount of plays made by the skill positions in the first half, so shame on me if I just mailed it in. It was great execution by a lot of people on those plays and a good job by Jalen Waddle running fast and getting out of bounds, and then a good job with Eric Ezukanma putting enough stress on the defense that they had to hit him before the ball got there. So just the execution, just the decision to do it at all. Do you I thought to myself, I praised the thought. I liked the idea. I was somebody who was if I'm playing Madden, I'm like, okay, there's only 2 seconds left. What's the worst that can happen? Let me toss out a long bomb out there and see if maybe I can get some more miraculous points right before. Not a whole lot of coaches do that because I guess they're afraid that something might go horribly wrong. But at that point, I don't see why we would not take that chance because even if you kneel it, then you have a sure shot of nothing happening. So I wanted to get your thoughts on what the decision was there.
Yeah, I love the aggressive nature of Mike McDaniel, and you see it in other instances too. The third and longs, the third and 15s, the third and 20s. You have some coaches who will just run an inside draw, get 5-6 yards, and then punt the ball away. Give a little more space for their punter. That's not Mike McDaniel's way, and it wasn't his way, like you just referenced at the end of the first half there when he decided to go for points. Last I checked, they got 3 points off of that drive. And they only won by 2. So it was actually very consequential for the Dolphins to get those 3 points. And Mike McDaniel's aggressiveness paid off in that particular situation. So he's an aggressive coach. I fully expect him to continue to be aggressive as the season moves on. And I think that empowers your players a little bit because all players want to go for it all the time, right? So if you empower your players and you let them know, hey, I have faith in you to make something happen, and then they actually pull it off, that's just going to increase their confidence levels, moving forward this season.
For sure. Now, real quick before we go, just want to go ahead and bring this up. Obviously, next up for the Miami Dolphins is the New England Patriots. Tua Tagovailoa, as of this point, he is 4-0 against the New England Patriots. He has never lost to Bill Belichick, regardless of whether it's at home or on the road. Obviously, New England Patriots is going to go ahead and quickly bring up the box score from their game against the Texans. Excuse me, not the Texans. That was the preseason. It was against the Eagles this past Sunday. So obviously they lost to the Eagles. It was 25-20, but the Patriots didn't have a necessarily bad game. And Mac Jones, for all of the talk about how he's not good and things like that, he didn't have a great game. And the reason I say he didn't have a great game, in spite of the numbers he put up, this is the same thing we talked about when Josh Allen and Justin Herbert put up all those numbers they did on us last season. Mac Jones threw the ball 54 times, completed 35 of them for 316 yards and 3 touchdowns and an interception. Okay, fine. So they scored 3 touchdowns. Great. But it took 54 passes for it to happen. And as for the running game, Ezekiel Elliott, 7 carries, 29 yards. I believe he fumbled, though. Ramondre Stevenson, 12 carries, 25 yards. Mac Jones, 2 carries, 15 yards. Ty Montgomery, 1 carry, 7 yards. Not a whole lot there to hang your hat on. Of course, for Ramondre Stevenson, at least, he got 6 receptions for 64 yards, so it looks like he might be a weapon out of the backfield for the Patriots. What's your confidence level going up against New England? Because it's all like, I know we want to dismiss the Patriots now. We want to act like, oh, they're plus 900. They're not a threat anymore. It's New England. What are your thoughts?
I thought the Patriots performed better than I thought they were going to against the defending NFC champion Philadelphia Eagles. Now you take a look at the weather in that game. The weather was poor. It was raining all game long. Hopefully, the Dolphins don't have to play in a similar weather scenario. Tua has struggled in the rain, in the cold, and stuff like that in the past. So hopefully, we avoid that. But Bill Belichick and the Patriots, they always do a good job of switching up their game plan based on the opponent. So I would have to think that Bill Belichick is going to look at the way the Chargers ran the ball against that Vic Fangio defense, and he's going to say, well, I have Zeke Elliott, I have Ramondre Stevenson, let's do the same. It wasn't necessarily effective, like you said, against the Philadelphia Eagles. I think the Philadelphia Eagles, they might be a little more stout on defense than the Miami Dolphins are, especially like I mentioned earlier, while this Dolphins defense is acclimating to the new scheme that Fangio runs. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is more of a Stevenson game than it is a Mac Jones game. But you do have to admit that Mac Jones did look a little bit better while having an actual offensive coordinator on his side instead of a defensive coordinator, Matt Patricia, masking as an offensive coordinator. So I do think the Patriots did a little bit better than I expected, but I don't think they're on the same level as the Los Angeles Chargers, at least on offense. So I wouldn't, famous last words here, but I wouldn't expect the type of rushing performance for the Patriots against the Dolphins on Sunday like the Chargers had this past week.
All right. So we'll go ahead and call it here. Mr. Marek, thank you very much for joining me. I really appreciate you coming on. We'll have you on again very, very soon. And
thank you for having me, Lewis.
Yep. And of course, for everybody out there, make sure you go to You Break Wheel Fix if you need to get your wheels fixed up, or if you just want to give your ride an upgrade. Reach out to them at 305-748-0112 or online at youbreakwheelfix.com. Go to prizepicks.com if you want to go ahead and get your fantasy sports on, your daily fantasy, the best place as far as I'm concerned. Free squares, promos, Flex Friday specials. Just use the promo code 5FIVE and they will match up to $100 on your deposit when you sign up. And of course, make sure you go check out Biscayne Bay Brewery. They are available in downtown Miami. They are the only brewery in downtown Miami. They're a partner of the Miami Heat, the official beer of the Miami Marlins. So go ahead and check them out. Make sure you go over there. Biscayne Bay Brewery, proud sponsor of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. That's going to be it for this show. We will see you all Friday for another episode of Fins Nation. You all have a great day.